Okay, this is 3-7 homework, transformations of linear functions. All right, the directions say determine the effects on the graph of the parent function f of x equals x, which we know as y equals x. For each g of x function, graph both functions on the same coordinate grid. Okay, there is a lot to this as we went over in class, but I'm going to give you a quick review of basically the big picture is there's only three different things that we're talking about. One of them is this top section of the transformation reference chart. You got this in class. If not, you can get it online. Okay, it should be attached right below this video. So translations are basically the graph just moves left, right, up, or down. That's all it's doing. The graph stays the exact same, except it just shifts over, either left or right, up or down. And then I get into the nitty-gritty details here of what makes it move which direction, okay? We'll go through this as we do some of the actual problems. Rotation makes the graph spin. It makes it get steeper or flatter, okay? That's a rotation. So translation this, rotation this. The third one is a reflection. Reflection makes the actual graph flip. So if it's going this way, suddenly it's going maybe this way. All right, it flips. And we'll get into what does that here in a little bit also. All right, so I'll be referring to this with each problem we do. Okay, we're going to go through all of the front together, evens and odds. Okay, so number one, it says g of x is equal to f of x minus 1. Okay? So let me go into my reference paper and go through what is what, okay? The basic things to look for. If you're adding or subtracting a number, you're basically going to be making a translation. It's just a matter of which direction it's going, okay? And I am adding or subtracting a number right here. So I already know I'm doing a translation. It's just a matter of what type of translation. If I'm multiplying by a number, that would be a rotation. Okay, because remember, adding or subtracting a number is changing the b type thing. Rotating would be when I multiply by a number. If I'm putting a negative on the number, which they refer to as multiplying by a -1, that's when I'm reflecting the other way. Okay? So for number one, all we're doing is subtracting a 1. Okay? That puts us down to this area right here. It's some type of translation. So what you look for is, are there parentheses involved? Not in this situation, there's no parentheses, okay? So if I'm adding or subtracting from x, and it's outside parentheses, the negative or the minus makes the graph go down, just like we're used to. So that's what happens with this line, okay? My new line, every single point goes down one box. So you can just start it where you are and go down one box each time and make a new line. I'm going to make my new line with a different color. I'll try to make it in yellow so you can differentiate it. So that's number one. It's just narrowing down to what you actually have to do. Now number two, on the other hand, are there any negatives involved? No. So I'm not reflecting. There's no multiplying by negatives. Am I multiplying at all? I'm not multiplying at all, so I'm not even doing a rotation. What am I doing? I am adding a number again. But this time the number I'm adding is in parentheses. So that's a big difference on how we describe it. Okay? I'm adding the number inside parentheses. That plus sign makes the graph go to the left. Okay? So every single one of these points moves over one to the left. Just like that. Okay, so this one, the first one, it went down one. It translated down one. Down one. This one translated left one. Okay, let's make the new line. Okay, number three. now we have g of x is equal to negative f of x. So now they do put a negative sign right on there. Okay, no negative signs here, no negative signs here. It's the bottom section with reflections. Okay, so what type of reflection is it? Since the negative is not inside parentheses, there's no parentheses involved with that negative sign. Okay, that means it's reflecting across the x-axis. You're multiplying the entire thing, the entire function, by -1. It's not just being multiplied to the x, but the entire thing. So that reflects across the x-axis. Okay, now you could put any of these in the calculator to get it as well, to get a picture of what the graph actually looks like. The verbal description is a little trickier. The calculator is not going to tell you how to verbally describe what's going on. Let me change that to my yellow. So this reflected across the x-axis. Okay, number 4. And the good news is number 5 and 6 we're leaving off. We're not going to do those right now. Number 4, g of x is equal to f of negative x. Notice the difference between these two. The one we just did, it was not inside there with the x. It was on the entire function. This one is not on the entire function. It's just on the x. So we know it's a reflection because we're dealing with multiplying by a negative. But now that we are multiplying by the x, it's reflecting by the y-axis. Even though it looks the exact same, pretty much, we describe it differently. Reflects across the y-axis. You could think of it as the first one, the way it flipped was like this. It flipped up like that across the x-axis. This other one is flipping over like this across the y-axis. You get the same result, but they're getting nitpicky on how they want you to describe it. It's based on how the equation is written. Okay, we're done with the front. On the back, we're going to do the odds together. And let's go ahead and do number 7. A car rental store rents cars for $20 a day. The function f of x equals 20x represents the daily rental fee for x days. So here's my equation. Y equals 20x. Okay? Now the company decides to add a one-time $10 fee. Now, we've already learned about one-time number. What is the one-time number? Where is there a 1 built into our equation? Right here. This is my one-time number. Okay? So one-time fee of $10 for cleaning. Write the new function g of x, which gives the new cost per day, as a transformation of f of x. So they're saying my original y equals equation is y equals 20x. Where does this 10 go into our new equation? Well, the vocabulary one time is already telling us that's the b number. So that's going to be a plus 10 added on. So my new equation, my new y equals, which we'll call g of x, is the same 20x, but then we add a 10 on at the end. Okay? How would that graph compare to that of f of x? Well, let's go back to our reference chart. When we have our regular thing. Now remember, this top one, translations, that's when you're adding or subtracting a number. So it's going to be one of these. We're not multiplying by a new number, and we're not adding a negative. We're not multiplying by a negative. So this section, were there any parentheses involved? No, we're just adding the 10 to the end. So it's outside any parentheses, plus makes the graph shift up. So the graph translates up. Number 9, it says on the directions, tell whether each transformation is a reflection, a translation, or both, a reflection and translation. The good news is they don't even care, they don't want us to describe the details, they just want to know, is it one or the other, or both. Okay, so we kind of know what to look at now. Let's look at number 9. H of x is equal to negative f of x plus 1. Okay, now we're starting with this original f of x. What do we add on to our f of x? We added on a negative sign in front. What does a negative sign make happen? When you're multiplying by a negative, it becomes a reflection. So one thing it's doing, it's reflecting. And we're also adding on a 1. When you add a number on there, it makes it translate. So we are reflecting and we're translating. If you wanted to get more detailed, then you could say how it's reflecting and how it's translating. The negative is on the entire function, so that would be, it's reflecting about the x-axis. So I'm just going to put x-axis here. And the translation is not in parentheses. Okay, the number that's being added is not in parentheses. So it's outside parentheses. It is a plus sign. It's going to be going up. Okay. Okay, number 11. M of x is equal to f, and then you have x plus 1 minus 2. Okay, so what happened to our original? Now, our original equation was just f of x. Okay, so two numbers are being added into that. This one in parentheses, this one out of parentheses. Okay, well, both of those we can agree are translations. When you're just adding and subtracting numbers, it's a translation. It's going to be going 1 based on the in parentheses. It's going to be going 1 to the left, and it's going to be going 2 outside of parentheses down. So it translates 1 left, 2 down. Okay, number 13, real quick, before our students start coming in. This is simply a reflection, which you can see pretty much. I put this on top of the graph. It flips straight over that way. So you would call that a reflection about the x-axis. About x-axis. And there is some help for you on 3-7.